Welcome to Sis Flicks, the podcast where we won't judge you for talking through the movie. Sis Flicks are the movies you laugh at, yearn for, and overanalyze with your girls, significant others, and now us.
We are your hosts,
Paola
and Nadhya, two sisters and designers who discuss chick flicks we hate to love,
tropes we love to hate,
and all of the aesthetic choices in between. Join us as we break down our favorite movies together.
Hey, sister.
Hey, sister. How's it going?
It's going. I'm happy to be finishing up this recap of season 2 of Heartstopper.
Same.
It's some heavy episodes, but very important episodes, I think.
Heavy episodes for heavy times. We are recording this
Yes.
almost a little bit kind of 2 weeks after the U.S. election. We're so sorry to everyone around, both national and international. So yeah, hopefully this is a little, I was going to say palate cleanser, but it's not, because as Paola said, these episodes are pretty heavy, but hopefully it's a different kind of heavy and a distraction from all of President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet appointments. So let's go. Let's do this. I've been seeing so many memes that are like, President Trump nominates Dr. Evil for like Secretary of Defense or like whatever. And it's just like, God, yeah, he's going to nominate Hellraiser. He's going to nominate Dr. Evil. He's going to nominate like Pennywise for protection of children. Like
Department of Education. Yeah.
It's going to be real bad. So as a way to not think about that, friends, and to think about a world where maybe things can be good and inclusive and cool and fine, let's keep talking about season 2 of Heartstopper as we wrap up, as Paula said, this recap, episodes 7 and 8. Let's fucking go.
Let's go. So last time we left the gang, they were all headed back home from their trip in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of good stuff happened in Paris.
Lots of good stuff happened in Paris. Some bad stuff happened in Paris. But a bunch of stuff we are going to have to address before the end of season 2, for sure.
So everyone is back home after the Paris trip. And we start checking in on the gang in their respective rooms, right? Everyone's bags still unpacked, but everybody's getting ready for the upcoming weeks and prom.
Also, I want to say, after the last episode, or it might not have been the most recent episode, but the one before, episodes 3 and 4, I asked, hey, English, British listeners, do y'all fucking do prom? Like, is that recent? And I got a couple of DMs from people saying, yes, we do prom. Like, I went to high school in the late 90s. We had prom. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. I thought prom was such a fucking American thing, but I am betraying my Americanness in that thought process. So, okay, very cool. I also asked if like people were doing these insane promposals and all that dumb shit. Apparently that is just beginning to go across the pond.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I'm happy that I missed the promposals.
Oh, same. I think I asked my prom date to go with me halfway through history class.
And it's already such a big deal if you have a date and who's the date. And then like to bring on top of that, like now how you're going to be asked or how you're going to ask a date. Like it has to be this,
promposal. My
too
God.
much.
The
Too
heteronormativity of a marriage proposal. Miss me with that.
It's like, can teenagers just have fun with their friends? Like it's too much. And you know what? It's movies' fault, actually.
I agree. Here we are talking about movies. It's movies' fault.
It is movies' fault. Everybody wants to have the fairy tale romance and the movie proposal. Everybody wants Heath Ledger to sing to them in the middle of practice.
My God.
It's too much.
It's too much.
Anyway, so after we have seen them making up in the last episode, we open this one with Tara and Darcy making out.
Yeah,
in Tara's room. Tara's mom knocks on the door and they quickly separate, go to their respective sides, and pretend that they were sleeping and are just waking up. And if I remember correctly, I think this is the first time we're fully in Tara's room.
Yes.
Which is super femme and girly. It's very colorful. Predominant colors being purple and pink.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's got Taylor Swift poster on her walls.
That's adorable.
She is how Darcy refers to her, literally a princess.
She's a
We
princess.
love her.
Can I say something stupid?
Yeah.
One thing.
Oh, always.
Oh my God, thank you.
Always on this pod.
That's why we're here. One thing I really appreciate about the way that they approach the room designs, like for the teens on this show, is that even though Charlie and Nick, like, they have spacious rooms and the color palettes are nice and they're relatively tidy, like most of the time, it's very good production design to make sure that things look like they're lived in and that they look appropriate for an age group. I always think it's really hard to correctly get like a teenager's aesthetic down. I like that Tara's room is like a little bit of a mess. It's soft, it's bright, it's a little louder than the boys' rooms, even though it's no less personal. Like I really love that.
No, it really does. And they do an amazing job of, they show you their shit on the floor and they show you all their different interests on their wall, pinned up on their desk, on their table. It's just, it feels very authentic and authentic to the character.
I literally read Brideshead Revisited because Charlie has a poster of the book on his wall.
Exactly. So Tara's a Swiftie.
That's so cute.
So we learn that Darcy has been sleeping over. We're not sure for how long, but Tara's mom lets them know that she's not going to be able to sleep there that night. Apparently, Tara's grandmother will be coming over and would not approve. The mom says, if grandma knew your girlfriend was sleeping over, she would have a heart attack. Tara says, if grandma knew I was a lesbian, she would have a heart attack.
Ya entendí.
So, first of all, grandma doesn't know that this is a girlfriend. She can still be a friend who's sleeping over.
Right.
Second thing here, I'm like, okay, go mom, right? Love that you were able to surpass your parents' bigotry. But why are you allowing it in your home and showing by example that your daughter has to hide who she is for somebody else's comfort?
Baby steps.
Baby steps. And I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt because maybe Tara herself isn't ready to come out to her grandmother.
Right. She's only recently come out to her friends.
Only within the past couple of weeks has she come out publicly to her friends and in school. So, okay, I can surpass that, but it still irked me a little bit. But now it sets up that Darcy needs to go home. A place she doesn't seem to like. And at this point, you don't know that explicitly, but there has already been mention of Tara not having gone over, the mom being super strict, and we've seen Darcy completely avoiding her calls. Back in Nick's room, he is looking through all the pictures he took in Paris. And he's wearing a big old smile on his face as he's looking at pics of Charlie. Until he notices a group picture that they took at the restaurant where Charlie is sitting with his whole plate of food right in front of him, untouched. This leaves Nick worried, right? And thinking about the events of that day, thinking about the events of the following day. So now Nick is worried. We cut from him to Charlie cheesing in bed as he stares at the picture Nick posted of them with a heart caption. Like a little soft launch, but like, let's be honest, Nick has been soft launching their relationship
for like
weeks.
3 months.
Because all he does is post pictures of him and Charlie. As he's staring at his picture with this big old smile on his face, he gets a notification from Ben fucking Hope.
Ew.
With his stupid 999 is in his username. I don't have to tell you what that is upside down. The message reads, I saw Nick's post. Can we talk?
Ew.
Charlie swipes up, ignores it.
Bless.
We jump to Elle in her room, where she receives her acceptance letter from the Lambert School of Arts. They also let her know that her application piece will be displayed at their Here and Queer exhibition to celebrate young queer and trans artists.
Gorgeous.
She's so happy. She's ecstatic. But her smile starts to fade as we transition to Tao in his room. You're like, fuck. Tao, however, is in the middle of a full-on solo dance party when his mom walks in, wondering why he's such in a good mood. He tells her that he and Elle decided to get together. And his mom, honestly, her reaction gave me goosebumps. The way she was so happy, she literally jumps into his arms. Precious. As she yells, Elle is the most special girl, the perfect girl for my perfect boy.
Oh.
Dios mío.
The way to do boy mom non-toxically.
Yes. They're too cute. Like, stop. We get it. You're the best. And we all wish that you were our parent.
Yeah, stop. I'll start crying. I will.
Yes, please.
I don't know why we're taking this threat lightly. It's not empty.
Dude. Then she proceeds to list all the family members that she will be updating on Tao's Love Life.
Oh,
Again, the immigrant parent energy is real.
so cute.
Like, that WhatsApp group chat is about to pop off. Just mad graphics, terrible ass memes of like love, blessings, like
stretched out pixelated pictures of puppies and like when God opens a door, like whatever.
Protect this family at all costs. We get our title card, Sorry, in dark purple that gets washed away in a rainbow wave. Mm-hmm. At Nick's house, the queen herself, Olivia Colman, Nick's mom, announces that Nick's dad will be stopping in for dinner that following week. He had let us know in the last episode that he will be visiting England for a business trip. That's where he fits in family time. Nick asks if they can invite Charlie, and the mom suggests that they invite the whole family and make it a proper dinner party. How fucking cute. David, of course, is an asshole about it. And it's like, it's not fair. Nick can invite somebody. Why can't I invite somebody? And the mom's just like, why? You got a girlfriend you want to invite? I bet you don't, because you're an asshole.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
Brutal.
Thank you. Back at Charlie's house, we see him get the invite from Nick while he's with Tori. Tori doesn't seem to think it's a great idea because she doesn't think their mom is going to be down with visiting Nick's house. She says mom isn't Nick's biggest fan, is she? But Charlie hopes that this dinner party will help her see that he is actually great. Mm-hmm. And just as he says that, he gets 2 more notifications from Ben fucking Hope and ignores them. You know, I think it's so funny how we say Ben fucking Hope because he's hopeless. He fucks off Hope. I'm so sorry. Anyway, Elle goes to IG to share that her art will be displayed at the Here and Queer exhibition. The gang immediately starts to congratulate her and plan how they will all get to the exhibition. Tao's first response was, so does this mean you're leaving us? And can I point out, I was watching this with my 12-year-old daughter. And when she sees that he starts to type that, she frustratingly goes, come on, man.
I can hear her saying that in my head.
And I was just like, right. So if my 12-year-old can recognize that that is not the response, thankfully Tao does too, and thinks better of it, erases the initial message and reframes his question. So did you get a place? Aww. Wow, growth. Elle excitedly starts to write down that she did, but decides to hold off sharing the news to spare Tao's feelings. So she lies and says, no, not yet. And we don't like this. I hate to see a man's ego be put before a woman's accomplishments. However, I think this should have been a phone call to Tao. Mm-hmm. Right? Her best friend, who's now her significant other, should have been like, hey, just got a letter. I think I got in, blah, 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 blah. And you have that conversation. Anyway, the group chat is going off in excitement for Elle. Tara suggests that they all should go shopping together for exhibition outfits. And Darcy adds, and for prom outfits.
This is how I know they're not American. Because it's like 2 or 3 weeks before prom and no one's got a dress. Shut up. Yeah.
No, I like that it's more low key, is represented, at least in this show, a bit more nonchalant.
Yeah.
Which is good, which is how it should be.
Americans are incredibly chalant about prom. Extra chalant, some might say.
Extra chalant.
Oof.
As she's typing this message, Darcy happens to be on her way home when we see her stop and contemplate and then resolve herself to continue to go towards something. Then we see that it is the door of her home, which is covered in an animated dark purple cloud, like a toxic dark purple cloud. That's the first time we've seen Darcy's house at all. And through this animation, we're made to understand it is a toxic environment. And we jump to later that day where they're in this adorable town to shop for their prom and exhibition outfits. Mm-hmm. With everyone coupled up, Isaac lets them all know that he'll be meeting with James. And this gets a lot of hoots and hollers and kissy noises from the gang as he rolls his eyes and walks away. Even Darcy gives like an, ooh, they're gonna kiss, which is sad because we already saw them kiss and it made things very confusing for Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
So we see that he meets James at the bookshop where James works, apparently. They giggle about a customer who just bought 15 penguin cloth-bound classics. Life goals. First of all, my introduction to classic literature was all through Penguin Classics at like Barnes & Noble. And like to have like a coordinated cloth-bound set of classics. Come on now. So they giggle about this, but it quickly gets awkward because James comes right out with it and just asks, so I guess you don't feel the same about me. And Isaac very candidly says that he's not very sure how he's supposed to feel when he has a crush. At this point of his life, he's only read about that feeling. He was hoping that maybe that's how he felt about James, but after they kissed, he didn't feel anything. This led him to feel that there might be something wrong with him.
And it's a bummer too, because in the first season, when Tao is kind of like super mad and snippy about Nick and Charlie like becoming friends, much less dating, Isaac is like, well, maybe they're dating. He's one of the first people to suss out that they like each other. And Tao's like, they're not dating. Bah. And Isaac is like, I just love romance.
I know. I want to believe in romance is what he says.
It just... like thinking about that and like how you can have like an objective appreciation for romance and other people falling in love and then not. And I'm not saying that it's sad. Like, I'm not saying that I wish he could. No, because his existence as he is perfectly valid. But knowing that he was anticipating that for himself.
Right.
And isn't finding it.
I'm just trying to put myself in his shoes and try to think about kind of the disappointment he feels and what he thought he was going to feel, what he was made to believe he needs to feel versus the reality. And he's comparing himself to that. And he's comparing himself to this kind of expectation that makes you sad for him.
Yeah.
And James answers with, maybe you just haven't found the right person. And we know this statement is meant well, but it continues to leave this impression that you as the receiver of this message need to continue to aspire to be with a romantic partner or have this romantic life. That's the pinnacle of your journey, is finding the right person. And that's the journey of your life, is to find the right person. It continues to make a romantic relationship kind of the center of your life.
And the goal.
When it's not. And it shouldn't be, and it doesn't need to be. So even in saying that, it's still, for Isaac, it's still like another punch in the gut. Leaving Isaac feeling a little dejected. So while all of this is going on, the rest of the gang is shopping in what seems to be a thrift store.
Love that.
We're fans.
Love that.
Sustainable monarchs all over the place. Love it. Tara is looking at dresses while Darcy takes a peek at some suits. And Tara actually goes up to her, pulls one out, and encourages her to try one on. And Darcy's like, no, I can't. She's like, no, go try it on. It's going to look great on you and it'll match my dress. So while Darcy goes to try on the suit, Charlie is roaming the shop when he gets 2 more notifications from Ben. Please, Charlie, followed by, I have a lot to say to you. He continues to ignore them. Nick walks up to him and very resolved says, I think I'm going to go to prom. And then asks Charlie if he would like to be his date. Oh, look at that. Like, there was any question that he wouldn't be his date.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, y'all are too laid back. America would never.
Now. And Charlie is still surprised. Sweet soul still can't believe Nick wants to be his boyfriend on purpose. But he has just one deal breaker, and that is that he does not want to wear matching suits, which I thought was funny to mention.
What a goofy thing.
Like,
it's so
goofy
silly
thing to say. But I don't know. I feel like there's a bit of anxiety there for Charlie. Darcy finally comes out, suited up, loving it, but says that it might be out of her budget after Paris. So what do? They all fucking chip in whatever they all had left for Darcy to be able to buy this suit.
I'm fucking crying.
So
like
fucking wholesome.
God.
I'm crying.
I'm crying.
So fucking cute. So fucking wholesome. They meet Isaac outside where it's now raining. And I would love to point out that all of their umbrellas are different variations and shades of blue, yellow, and pink.
Always. Every time.
The umbrella Nick is holding for him and Charlie is literally blue and yellow. Half blue, half yellow. Nick is standing directly under the blue side and Charlie stands directly under the yellow side. Just further confirming the colors the production has chosen to represent each of them. Mm-hmm. Anyway, everyone starts speculating on what may have happened between Isaac and James. And Isaac, rightfully so, has just had fucking enough. He calls them out for only being interested in romantic drama and clarifies he does not like him back. I don't like him back. I'm sorry that all you guys care about is romantic drama. I'm not involved in it. I don't like him. And he moves ahead through the group, further states he does not want to talk about it. Respect, Isaac. This is the most we've seen him talk in any scene. And it was a moment where he was upset and felt like he needed to defend his stance. Everybody kind of just looked at him, mouth agape. The day for Lambert Art School's Here and Queer exhibition is finally here. And her boo and the whole gang has shown up to support Elle. As they all walk into this dope-ass exhibition, an educator comes up to Elle, congratulates her for her piece, and says that she cannot wait to see more of her work come September when she starts at the Lambert School in front of everyone. So the secret is out. Tao now knows, and he didn't hear it directly from her, which cannot be a good feeling. That's a shitty way to find out.
Yeah.
He just stands in the background as everyone goes for hugs and congratulations, including her new friends she made on her visit to Lambert. Tao just stands there looking at her, and now Elle feels bad. And although I understand how he might feel about finding out in this way, I don't agree with him making her feel bad in this moment. Because by not engaging, he's resisting to make it about her, and in turn is making her make it about him.
Which is
everybody else
typical.
And you know, we knew a Tao at one point that would have stomped out of there like a toddler.
Yeah.
So growth, but everyone's celebrating her and giving her hugs. And in a moment where she should be happy and proud, she looks up to her boyfriend and he's looking at her disappointed and can't celebrate with her because he feels bad that she's accomplished something. So it's a little fucked up. Leaving romantic drama behind, Isaac seems to come across an art piece that seems to portray love letters kind of hanging in the air or maybe falling from above, depending on how you interpret it. The artist behind the piece comes forward and starts to explain that it is meant to represent their personal experience being aromantic and asexual. With this piece, he's trying to portray what it feels like to free yourself from the pressures and expectations of being in a world where romance and sex are prized above anything else when you don't feel those forms of attraction. And that seems to resonate so deeply with Isaac. And he himself is given his own animation of fluttering leaves. This moment of realization for Isaac, this moment of like acceptance, I guess, right? Like realizing there's other people that feel like he does and he can relate to. He gets his own leaves, one purple and one green. Green representing the only non-neutral color on the aromantic pride flag, and purple representing the only non-neutral color in the asexual pride flag. So I thought that was a great way of showing this moment of realization for Isaac, moment of community for Isaac, really, where he felt like he was seen. As in the background, we hear, "Crush culture makes me want to spill my guts out." He looks at this piece with these hanging love letters that to me can be portrayed as love as defined by society is kind of suspended or frozen in time. Or maybe each of those love letters represents like a societal expectation that you have freed yourself from. And so they float up and away. There's so many different interpretations I think you can take from this art piece. And that's the beauty of art. Just the vast interpretations it can take to carry a message that resonates with the person looking at it. Guess who else joins the gang? Imogen.
Aww.
She goes to say hi to Tara and Darcy, who are standing with Sahar, and says, guys, you can't tease me about being the token ally anymore. Now that Sahar is here. And Sahar is literally like, I'm bisexual actually. So and she like rolls her eyes and walks away. Like Sahar, like she be tired of Imogen.
Yes. And it's so funny that Imogen's like, but you're my best friend now.
But Sahar, what do you mean? And then she goes after her to like further break this down. Sahar, what do you mean? There's like a real love-hate relationship between those two. Now, if you look behind them in that scene, right, where it's Tara, Darcy, Sahar, and Imogen, there's this amazing Easter egg. There's an art piece behind them of two female figures about to kiss. And this is a direct callback to Tara and Darcy's first public kiss at Harry's party.
Mm-hmm.
And it's backlit in like purples and pinks, very similar to how they were backlit at the party. And also in the way that it's placed specifically in this scene after this specific interaction, for me, it foreshadows some major events coming up between Imogen and Sahar. So the time finally comes to unveil Elle's piece at the art exhibit. She is asked to say a few words about her piece. It left me wondering why she is the only one unveiling her piece in this way.
Like everybody else's stuff is already on display for everyone to see, but hers is like the best one. So they're revealing it.
So that makes a lot more sense. Because I was asking myself, like, why is hers the only one being revealed?
Yeah.
Is it because she's the only... I know she's not the only new student accepted.
And she's not the only trans student.
To introduce her piece, she starts talking about all the changes her life has gone through in the last couple of years. And in her piece, she wanted to capture a place that represents joy and safety, even through the darker times in her journey. The piece is uncovered to show a painting of her, Tao, Isaac, and Charlie sitting in the art room near the corner by the mural of the blossoming tree. This tree that we've mentioned before symbolizes the growth and nurturing as they each transform and grow into the people that they are and are going to be. Mm-hmm. And it also brought to mind how the symbol for Tao and Elle are butterflies. And butterflies will typically build their cocoon on a branch, a safe place to go through their transformation. For Tao and Elle as individuals, as friends, and now as a couple. And also, as we've come to witness in this story, through all this change and growth, one thing has remained constant, and that is the unwavering support of the friendship between Elle, Isaac, Charlie, and Tao. A friendship that took root in this school, was nurtured within the safe walls of this art room, and serves as the foundation for all the other friendships that have bloomed within and branched off from this friend group. In turn, they themselves have become the safe space.
I love that.
To me, this is the root of the story of Heartstopper. They are the foundation. Everything in Heartstopper, all the symbolism, all the flutters, it all relates back to the symbolism of the tree and how they, Tao, Elle, Isaac, and Charlie, are the foundation. I would also like to take you back to season 1, episode 8, when Tao and Elle had that moment in the art room during sports day where Tao shows Elle his attempt at a landscape. It was a painting of him, Isaac, Charlie, and Elle all under a tree. So in my head, that moment inspired Elle's painting.
I would not have caught that if you didn't bring it up. And I love that so much. That's so good.
I'm watching, I'm like, wait, hold on. Didn't he also do a painting of them under a tree?
Oh, I love that.
And they reminded me of that moment. And something else that it makes me think back to. Back in season 1, episode 1, where we meet Tao, Isaac, and Charlie at lunch, right? At the lunch tables. Tao is complaining about how their friend group without Elle is just a trio. And for him, right, their group of 4. In the timing of the story, in less than a year, thanks in part to Elle branching off to Higgs, their group of 4 has doubled.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so important to recognize as we're kind of using this tree as a symbolism of their friendship and community. So after this painting is revealed, they all go in for a group hug to celebrate Elle. And I really wish Mr. Ajay had been there to see this. He deserved an invitation to this exhibit, and I think it would have cued some serious waterworks. He created that safe space for them in that art room where we see them commune and we see them be able to blossom into their own people. And then because of that, they created their own safe space within their friend group. So after this beautiful moment, we see Tao finally coming to terms with Elle pursuing what makes her happy. So after this beautiful moment, Tao finally starts to come to terms with Elle possibly going to Lambert and pursuing what makes her happy. And when she asks him about how he might feel, he clarifies to her that he's not upset and he doesn't want her to base his decisions on how he might feel. The only thing he cares about is that she's happy. Mm-hmm. And he reassures her that wherever she is, he will always want to be with her. Oh, look, Tao, I knew you could do it, Tao.
It only took 2 seasons.
1.5. As the event comes to an end, Nick and Charlie head out, only to come across Ben fucking home.
Ay. But I'm like, literally, why are you there?
At first, I hoped maybe he came to the event to finally embrace the hearing queer part of his life. But no, it becomes very clear that he knew Charlie would be there to support Elle because she posted it. And Ben decided, since Charlie wasn't answering any of his messages, that this was the place he was going to find him for sure. That's some stalkerish, toxic shit.
Yep.
Nick isn't having any of it and grabs Charlie by the arm and heads the opposite direction. Ben calls out to Charlie, ignoring Nick, that he wants to properly apologize, that he'll never have to see him again because he won't be going back to Truham for sixth form. And I think that's the part that grabbed Charlie's attention. Like, okay, if I can finally fucking get rid of you, go ahead, say what you gotta say.
The darkness in my soul, I was like, oh my God, is he gonna hurt himself? Like, when Ben was saying that, obviously they just mean that he's gonna go to a different school as you're able to
kind of like Elle will.
Exactly.
Right.
But I was like, what the fuck? Like, why is he saying it like that? It's so fucking final.
So Charlie approaches Ben and allows him to say whatever he's gotta say. Mm-hmm. He starts by saying that he's a messed up person. Facts, Ben.
Facts, no printer.
But then he says, I liked you. You know that, don't you? Motherfucker win! With his stupid ass smile on his face. Like, how, Ben? Between ignoring him in public, being shitty to him in private, how the fuck was he supposed to know? Ben agrees with me through the fourth wall and says, I know I was a very shitty person, but I really liked you. We've kind of speculated he's probably had something going on at home.
For sure. Or just maybe an incredibly homophobic home environment, something that makes him feel like he has to repress and deny and ignore, and it comes out in these awful ways.
Ben says, if I just had more time, I wanted to be like you two, but my parents would never accept who I really am. I'm sorry for everything. I just wanted something good, and you were something good.
I hated that because the implication is I needed something good that I could manipulate and treat like absolute garbage that was only available to me when I wanted it and not when they wanted it. I needed something without free will or independent feelings.
He didn't know how to also be that something good for somebody else. And he smiles his stupid fucking smile. This is an instance where, like we were saying, the show is reminding you that bullies and toxic behavior very seldomly come from nowhere. We've had this conversation many times. Bullies are made. And we've all come to hate Ben, but I think this is an important dynamic to portray on screen. By hearing this, we can understand he's projecting with his behavior, and we can empathize with maybe the struggles he's going through behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. Yes, we can be empathetic while also recognizing toxic behavior and drawing boundaries and staying away from toxic people. This is especially important for empathetic teens who typically want to be nice, want to understand, want to be accepting, want to accept others because they themselves want to be accepted, but then are taken advantage of by people who are using them. Charlie ignores his messages all day. This is him enforcing a boundary that he drew on sports day when he told them never to talk to him again.
Yep, that Ben has disrespected multiple times.
Even as a 16-year-old, he's displaying predatory behavior, and it's a major red flag, and is now presenting himself as a victim, which can very much be true in his circumstance. But still, victim or not, does not give him the right to anything. And it also shows that if you have been this person, if you have been the Ben in somebody's life, the only way forward is by taking accountability and doing better. Ask for the forgiveness if you can in a non-intrusive way. Maybe that's the text you should have sent instead of fucking spamming Charlie. How about that? So after this monologue and apologies from Ben, Charlie just looks at him and reminds him of their first kiss. And it's just, when he asks him, do you remember our first kiss? Ben gets this, again, his stupid ass fucking smile across his face. Little stupid fucking smirk. Then Charlie reminds him, you didn't even ask.
Ew.
You didn't even wait for consent. And this became the dynamic of their relationship, where Ben just took control and took whatever he could from Charlie at his convenience to satisfy whatever lusts he had for him. And for Charlie, that became the stick with which he began to measure his own worth. Charlie continues that now, whenever anything good happens in his life, there is a little voice in the back of his mind telling him he's worthless and he doesn't deserve the good thing.
Wow, I fucking hate that.
Joe Locke's performance in this monologue, in this scene that he gets, like, he portrays this mix of like anger and almost like embarrassment, like shame, right? That like this happened to him just so well. So well. Like Emmys.
Just Emmys sprinkled everywhere.
And he concludes with, I'm glad you realized what you did was wrong, but you don't get to ambush me into forgiving you. Preach!
Damn right.
Sorry doesn't make up for everything you did. I really hope you become a better person so you don't hurt anyone else. But I don't want to be there to see that happen. Oof. Like, aplauso, aplauso. First, I was ecstatic for Charlie. I got teary-eyed and felt like this pride for him in that moment, like the strength and maturity that it takes to say, I'm glad you realize you fucked up, but I don't owe you my forgiveness. Go and be better for somebody else. Go and be better. Go do better. Mm-hmm. Like, especially for Charlie, who often apologizes for no reason at all.
Yeah.
Here, he lets Ben take full accountability for how shitty and fucked up he's been and chooses to let his anger and discomfort be known and be loud. And he tells Ben that he never wants to see him again. And we don't. This is literally the last time we see Ben fucking Hope. Thank fucking goodness. As much as we're all uncomfortable and hated that scene, I thought it was important to portray how to deal with a toxic person. Mm-hmm. And how maybe as somebody who's realizing they have toxic behavior, what not to do.
And this is what we mean, right? Like, I know we've said it multiple times by this point, but like, that this show is like too, it can be too preachy. It's like a little too after school special. It's like,
nah, I disagree.
I also disagree, but it's like, this is modeling for people. And it's not just modeling for kids. Like, how many of us have made it through fucking adulthood without the ability to carry out any of these lessons, without the opportunity
or draw a
to
boundary.
Learn any of this on our own
Exactly.
or implement it in our own lives. And then we can watch this fucking TV show and watch 15 and 16-year-olds do it. That's why this exists.
If they can do it, I can.
Right. Like, that's why this is so meaningful to people. And seeing a character like Charlie go from the top of season 1 to this point, asserting himself, drawing a hard boundary, making his feelings perfectly known, unapologetically, right? In the face of someone that used to have so much control over how he viewed himself and how he behaved. Mm-hmm. That's fucking huge. And a lot of us, again, as adults, can't even claim that we've had a situation that has gone that way for us. Not because we haven't wanted it, but because we haven't known how to make it happen. Here's a way to make something like that happen.
So Nick and Charlie, after this monumentous moment, walk away. And coming from the Hearing Queer events, we see a rainbow wave reach towards Ben, almost like calling to him, maybe even welcoming him. but he pivots and turns the other way.
And this is like a cartoon wave on the ground.
You hear the beach sounds, which for us have become very precious for Nick and Charlie.
Nick. Yeah.
But can possibly just mean
freedom, a version of freedom.
A version of freedom, yeah. A version of peace. And artistically, they're showing you like this freedom or this acceptance, this pride in who you are. Just reach out. All he has to do is take a step towards it. Mm-hmm. And he literally cannot take it. He rejects it and turns the other way. Mm-hmm. A lot of symbolism there, and it's heavy. And it's portrayed lightly, but once you break it down, it feels so heavy, and it's very sad because there are people who have to exist that way, either from their own doing or due to their circumstances.
One of the last things that I want to call out about this Ben thing is that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Charlie has ever threatened Ben with telling people. I don't think Charlie's ever been like, and I'll tell everyone, you fuck. Like, because I don't think Charlie lives with this idea of like retaliating against you would mean exposing you. Retaliating against you would mean breaking whatever this is that you've constructed for yourself. I don't need to do that. Also, I know the pain of that. I know the pain of being outed and people finding things out in a way that I did not intend. And I don't intend to inflict that on anybody else, no matter what they do to me. And I love that because, again, in the spirit of the show modeling things for you, the point is not I need to embarrass and humiliate and like torture the other person more than they've done to me. I need to draw the boundary. I need to end the situation. I need to end this relationship. And I go and I leave and I do my own thing.
Charlie, Nick, and Imogen all know acutely about Ben. And nobody uses that against him. And I don't know that he does either. Because he can weaponize Nick's coming out.
Yeah.
He doesn't do that. There seems to be a level of respect on that front. I mean, and we can understand that now that he's mentioned a bit about his home life, that exposure can ruin his home life. He's not interested in doing that. You get what I'm saying? Like, what it tells you is that Ben's behavior is not about being an asshole specifically. It's more about him and his fucked up toxic feelings and less about he wants to hurt people. You get what I'm saying?
For sure.
Still doesn't make him a good person. Here's to hoping for some healing for Ben and people like him. After this, Nick and Charlie head to Nick's house where they're getting ready for the family dinner party.
Precious.
With Nick's father there, they decide that Charlie has to be his platonic friend until Nick is able to talk to his father about them. And this scene, honestly, coming out of like that heaviness with Ben, this scene is so cute where Charlie's like, okay, mates, pal, bro.
Ew.
It's so fucking cute. Like he looks like a cartoon character. They have like one kiss, almost like a supportive kiss, almost like a, okay, we can do this kiss before heading into Nick's house, where we can hear from the outside the dad bro and his bro son yelling at the TV because they're watching some sport.
Ah, yes, of course. Sport.
They walk in the house and David and their dad are on the sofa. And the dad greets Nick for a total of 5 seconds before going right back to his sport.
Sick.
David is already fucking weird, but we're going to ignore him for now. Nick and Charlie head into the kitchen to help because they're gentlemen. And while Charlie sets the table, Queen Olivia Colman, Nick's mom, tells Nick that he doesn't owe his father anything because she can see that Nick's a bit stressed out. She lets him know he doesn't have to know if Nick doesn't want to share. But Nick makes it clear, and hats off to Nick. Nick makes it clear that he's not doing it for his father. He's not doing it for him. He wants to come out and be open with his boyfriend. He's doing it for himself. Everyone arrives and dinner starts off very pleasant, good grown-up small talk. Charlie's mom asks his dad if he visits often. This man has the audacity to say he visits as often as he can. And this almost stops Nick in his tracks. He just stares at him. Like, I know this motherfucker didn't just say this shit. David comes out with some bullshit and asks the table, hey, Dad, did Nick tell you how he met Charlie? Putting Nick and Charlie on the fucking spot, Nick answers simply, we had class together and Charlie joined rugby. David continues and says how obsessed Nick was to get Charlie to join the rugby team and adds, I wonder why. Like, what the fuck is he trying to do? So, first of all, how did David know if Nick was obsessed about Charlie joining the rugby team?
He's just making it up. He's just riffing.
He wasn't around in that part of school. He wasn't even around in season 1. And we're all Tory because the way she sides-eyed this man and like grabs his arm, like, what the fuck are you trying at, dude? Like, and he says, I'm just trying to help. No, you're just trying to start some shit because you think that this is gonna make Nick look bad in some way because you're a fucking homophobic asshole. But at this dinner table, we are with Olivia Colman's eye roll at this man's stupid ass comment. Then he proceeds to ask the boys if they themselves have found girlfriends yet. You know, because of the rugby.
Dog, I'm sorry. Charlie from a distance. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't get Nick's dad being like, everybody's having a girlfriend. Like, sir.
Also, you're a Frenchman.
Yeah.
By now, everyone is visually uncomfortable at this table. Except for Dave's smug ass, who continues to press by saying Nick isn't interested in girlfriends. He's bi, actually, so maybe he might be one day, but not right now.
Not right now.
He's got Charlie, and we hope that they're together forever. So my assumption is that Dave's goal here was to get his father upset at Nick and embarrassing him in front of Charlie's family. Like, I don't...
To what? Exactly. It's like, to what end?
Just to
like,
be
what does
an
this
asshole.
Get you?
Nothing. It just gets him the satisfaction that he embarrassed his brother because he's an asshole.
Yep.
Nick finally says fuck it and tells his dad that Charlie is his boyfriend and comes out to him by saying, surprise, I'm bi, he's gay, and I don't care about what you think anymore.
Bless.
Since he seems to not care very much about being present in their lives, he calls David a 10-year-old and tells him that his bullying is no longer going to affect him or no longer affects him, and finishes by saying, I like who I am and I like my life. Go stay with dad next time if you fucking love him so much. And then he gets up and walks out.
Hot. I don't make the rules. Hot.
David continues to go on quite disrespectfully to his mother, actually, with this like pick me behavior towards his dad. And then it fails when his dad says, you have not grown up into the man I hoped you would be, David.
Woo.
And the queen finally speaks out and says, where the fuck do you have the audacity to criticize how he's grown if you haven't been in his life?
Also, like, imagine the duality of man, right? Like, Olivia Colman being the one to raise both of these boys. Yikes. Because Nick is so great and David is so not.
There's an idealization on one side.
Of the dad. Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess if Nick is younger, they both have the same father, which means that the dad was around for more of David's life.
Right. It's never explicit at what point Nick's mom and dad split up, but you can assume that David was there for the time when they were together for most of it.
Yeah.
Much longer than Nick was. That's what you see in the difference between Nick and David.
Yeah.
After she says this to the dad, they go into a full-fledged family argument in front of their guests. Oh, the Latin pride could never, or maybe they could actually, based on some family discussions around the family table sometimes. Anyway, during all of that, Charlie has a moment where he looks over to his dad and he gets kind of this nod of approval to go check on Nick. So he gets up from the table, meets Nick outside, gives him a very supportive hug. Mom joins them eventually, and Nick finally says out loud to his mom something he just seemed to realize. He's not a very good dad, is he? And let me tell you, coming to that realization and being able to say it out loud is a very hard thing to do. So that's another proud moment you feel for Nick and Charlie, specifically Nick in this scene, in this episode. As everyone packs up to leave, Nick's dad apologizes to him and says he wants to try to do better. And you know what Nick says? Okay, then show it.
Woo.
Snaps. Like, I'm snapping all episode. David, on the other hand, is unfortunately very desperate for his father's approval. And you feel just a little minutely sad for him when his dad couldn't even remember what university he went to as he's saying goodbye. As he says bye to Nick, he tells him he's glad about Charlie and that he seems like a very nice young man, and literally pats his son on the shoulder before heading out until who knows when.
Otra vez, he's French. What the fuck?
Very impersonal, very unemotional, very dry. He is not invested in his children's lives at all.
Yeah.
He went to dinner there to check a box off, to say, oh, I visited my kids. Everyone else seems unfazed by this dinner. Charlie's parents are just like, oh, drama, yep, totally normal. Happens all the time. And offers to invite Nick and his mom over for dinner at their house next time. Finally, Charlie's mom's warmed up to Nick. She sees how Nick came to Charlie's defense. She sees how Nick stood up to a toxic brother and father. Now, Tori, she wasn't leaving without getting hers. Because as she exits the bathroom, David is at the top of the stairs, still talking shit to who knows who. And let me something about this scene. He's got AirPods on or some type of headphones on, right, for his phone call, but he's also holding the phone up to his face. But it's perfect because it grants Tori the perfect opportunity to kick his phone out of his hand, sending it across the room down the stairs. In the book, there's a shot of the broken phone. Here, we don't get that satisfaction, but we can assume. And she heads down while he's too stunned to fucking speak. At the door, Nick and Charlie reaffirm that they will see each other at prom tomorrow. And Charlie asks, not once, twice, if they're really going together. And you're starting to see, again, a little bit of this anxiety he has about this thing finally happening. And then kisses his boyfriend right outside of his house in front of his family for the first time. Back inside, as Nick helps clean up after dinner, he notices that Charlie barely touched his food again. And he grabs his phone and for the first time Googles eating disorders. From there, we cut to Darcy sending the chat a picture of her wearing the suit.
Hell yeah.
With the caption, Tara, we're gonna look so good tomorrow. Just as it sends, the mom walks into the room, laughs mockingly, and begins to criticize Darcy's look and demands that Darcy take off the suit immediately. Darcy yells, my friends won't laugh at me. They like me and they are supportive. An animated purple smoke starts to fill up the room as the argument continues to escalate. Darcy grabs her things, just a handful of her things, and runs out of the door, looks back to see the toxic purple smoke surrounding the entrance of this place, which may no longer feel like a home to her. Mm-hmm. And that's how we end episode 7.
A lot in there. A lot of meat. Big episode.
This was a heavy episode. But, you know, we see people standing up for themselves.
Bless. War. I'll fight wars. I'll go to the Coliseum. I'll defend this friend group till my dying breath. They're the fucking best.
You will gladiator for them?
I'll gladiate for this fucking friend group.
I will. Nadhya, what's our next episode after this?
All right, dog. Episode 8, titled Perfect. This episode of Heartstopper Season 2 begins with Nick waking up on prom day. He rolls over in bed, looks up at his wall, which now has multiple pictures of him and Charlie kissing, generally being cute, smiles instantly, turns to his phone, opens up Instagram, and decides to post a picture of him and Charlie cuddling in bed, looking very in love. Captions it, boyfriends, I'm bi actually. And I'm like, King, nobody would forget. You'll never like them.
Oh, yeah, nah, don't fucking assume. I'm bi actually.
Yeah.
I love it. Don't mislabel me.
He immediately goes to Charlie's house and is welcomed by Charlie outside the front door with hugs and kisses. They're both giddy and so happy that they can date in public, that they're going to prom. It's like very precious. They hang out in Charlie's room, checking the comments on the Instagram post and talking about prom. Most of the comments are overwhelmingly kind, but you do see a couple flash past the screen that are like, ew, pick a side. What are you doing? Are you guys really dating? And it's like, shut the fuck up. Charlie is a little too like falsely optimistic that everything will be perfect. This will be perfect. Prom will be perfect. Everything will be perfect. And Nick is a little bit more realistic. He's a little more hesitant to believe that things will be as smooth as Charlie keeps saying they will be.
It broke my heart when Charlie's like, this is the most perfect my life has ever been. Charlie is saying, this is the most perfect my life has ever been. I'm not getting bullied. I'm out with my boyfriends. But just in the last episode, we were watching him look at these pictures from Paris and noticing that
Charlie's not eating. Meanwhile, Tao and Elle are hanging out at her house and they see Nick's post and are super happy for Charlie and Nick, obviously. Tao is kind of like laying on Elle's bed as she's like sitting in a vanity and like getting ready. And he sees the pamphlet for Lambert Art School classes and realizes that Elle is like, she's going. And he asks her to be his girlfriend and she agrees. And they seal their new relationship with lots and lots of kisses. It's like kind of a lot.
it's almost like he sees that and sees like, oh, she's gonna go.
I need to put something down. This needs a root. This needs something.
Yeah. I need to solidify this now.
Because she is going to leave me. In the meantime, again, this is all happening simultaneously. Tara is having a hard time organizing prom. We see her walking through their school's like auditorium gym hybrid, and everybody seems to, it's like their first day ever setting up for an event. It's the first time
on the day of,
it's the first time they've ever put up streamers. It's the first time they've ever unpacked boxes. It's the first time that they've ever tried to use tablecloths and fairy lights. Like, everybody is acting brand fucking new, and Tara's like, what the fuck? And we see her pull open her phone. She's texted Darcy multiple times. Darcy has not responded. Let's all remember the last time we saw Darcy, she was storming out of her house with a small bag of belongings, determined not to go back. Tara goes into the group chat with the gang and says, guys, I fucking need you to come and help me. I can't find Darcy. This is a shit show. Please, I need you to come help me set up. Like a fucking gang of superheroes, like the fucking Justice League. We see them all arrive at the gym auditorium hybrid to support Tara. They're like, we're gonna sort this out, we're gonna fix it, prom is gonna happen, it's gonna look awesome.
While they're walking in, like in their Justice League like
realness
poster, like all coming in to save the day, Isaac still has a book in his hand.
Obsessed because
he's like, I can multitask.
Because if he didn't, who would he be? You know? Isaac without a book, I don't know her and I don't want to.
I could barely listen to a book and walk at the same time. Like,
he's perfect as he is. And after the gang arrives, it's pretty much smooth sailing. You know, they all work together to get everything set up. They've absolutely put streamers for an event up before. They've absolutely unfolded tablecloths. And of course, there are a bunch of nosy people during the setup that keep asking if Nick and Charlie are really dating. Again, this invalidation of identity, right? Where you're outwardly like, my boyfriend, I'm bi. My boyfriend, I'm bi. And people are still coming up to him being like, but are you really dating? Like, or are you fucking making it up?
You don't look gay.
There's something so weird about
like,
that.
Oh my God.
Right, exactly.
Shut the fuck up.
A lot of people are having a hard time believing that maybe not that Nick is gay, but that he's interested in men, period. Right?
They have to question it for him as well.
Yeah, and, you know, as we discussed in the last episode, like, that's something that I think anybody who identifies as bi endures constantly, because if you're in a hetero-presenting relationship, then you're not bi, you're just attracted to other people. That's normal, that's fine. If you are with someone of the same gender or a gay-presenting relationship, a queer-presenting relationship, then it's like, well, you're only this. You don't also like men or women or anything in between.
Yeah, the whole pick a side shit gets old real fast.
Yeah.
It's bullshit.
Amidst all of this, we see Tao and Elle as they have a great time painting stuff for the prom. Nick and Charlie are simultaneously working on balloons. Nick worries, as he will continue to do, that Charlie may not have eaten and suggests that they have an early lunch. Charlie turns down his offer, claiming that he had a heavy breakfast, and Nick drops it. By this point, I think we can all assume anytime Charlie's talking about food, he's lying, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I think Nick knows that. He was with him that morning.
Absolutely. A heavy breakfast when, girl? Like, before I got to your house? Like, when? So, again, we see the gang putting up different decorations. We see them goofing around, being a tinsel monster, putting up streamers, and Tao and Elle paint together. It's very, very cute.
They've done it all in a matter of
literally, it's been 2
minutes.
hours, and they set up the entirety of prom, okay? Nick, later on during that day, has a moment where he's alone with Tao and confides he thinks that Charlie might still be struggling through everything he went through with regard to being outed, his situation with Ben, the shittiness of Harry and being bullied by Harry. that stuff may be like in the past, but he's not necessarily over it. Tao, in an unexpected moment of, I don't know, noticing other people and their feelings, agrees that Charlie has been holding it in and never talks about the period of time where he was bullied.
Which is kind of scary.
It is super scary. We've talked about this already before, that Charlie has this toxic positivity about him, where it's like, if I just pretend everything's good, perfect, and fine, everything's going to be good, perfect, and fine. Meanwhile, he is pinching himself. Meanwhile, he's not eating. There are many other things below the surface that are not working, that he is not addressing, because he keeps chasing this idea of like goodness and perfection. Tao also, for one of the first times that we've heard him discuss this, but especially the first time he's discussing this with Nick, talks about how he was affected by his dad's death and is basically like, I know why I'm so afraid of people leaving me. It's because my dad died. And it's like, oh, holy shit, that was self-aware as fuck and incredibly introspective. So proud of you, Tao. Like, the fact that this is just zoop, like a blip on the screen is shocking.
And also the way that he shares this vulnerable side of himself with Nick. It's just, we've seen Tao's growth, but to see like the growth of their relationship and their dynamic specifically, like if you think of season 1 Tao and Nick, even earlier in this season, where there's a moment where Nick tries to like talk to him about Elle and he almost completely shuts him down before kind of thinking better of it and being like, okay, well, and talks about how he feels about Elle.
Right.
When Nick tells him what a great person he is, right? I love seeing the evolution, not only of Tao, but of Nick and Tao's relationship. It comes to mean a lot for them, for each other. Even in the way that Nick goes and sits next to him and Tao offers him like a chip is similar, a direct parallel to the bowling alley scene where Nick goes to sit next to Tao, kind of like, you know, wanting to become friends, wanting to get to know him more. And Tao extends like the French fries he's eating and he grabs one. But then Tao's like, I'm watching you. Like, I know you're going to hurt Charlie. It's a direct parallel to this. And now you see Tao opening up to him. I love this scene. You come into this season, you come to love the Nick and Tao interactions.
Your memory, next level. Because the way I would not have put those together. So thank you for being the smart one. Meanwhile, Tara leaves Darcy a ton of messages, text messages, voicemails, and tries to call her but is unable to reach her. We see kind of in the background of all of this happening, right? Because we've got the anxiety Tara is feeling about not being able to locate Darcy. We as the viewer, knowing that Darcy has kind of like effectively run away, we're feeling anxious for that. Nick and Charlie, Nick is worried about Charlie. Nick is having this discussion with Tao about his worries. Tao and Elle, Tao's anxious about Elle going away for school. Like, all of these things are running as an undercurrent. But in the background, the kind of like tertiary characters, we see Coach Singh playing Cupid and matchmaker to suggest that Mr. Ajayi invite Mr. Farouk to prom. Under the pretense of needing more chaperones, because that girl, she got eyes. We all got eyes. We see that the gang meets up at the entrance of the gym auditorium hybrid to wonder out loud where Darcy is. Tara lies because she's not ready to kind of tackle her fear of what's going on with Darcy, and says that Darcy's running late and urges her friends to start the party without her.
The direct cut after that is Nick checking himself out in the mirror in Charlie's room. We see Nick in his suit, and it is like a grayish blue. It's almost like, it's like a baby bluish gray.
Yeah, that's kind of what I remember seeing.
It is a baby bluish gray. And Charlie does not want Nick to see him in his suit. He feels self-conscious. And I feel like it's the first time you see Charlie feeling self-conscious about how he looks. And he tells Nick to cover his eyes. Nick does in the middle of the room. Charlie walks in, and then Nick's like, can I open my eyes now? And then it's just Charlie. He's got a bow tie on, a deep navy suit. And Nick is just like, you're so adorable. And they're so fucking adorable.
And Nick is like, again, Nick fucking feelings, hiding them where? Nick would never. No. This king is transparent.
Nick picks him up with a hug. And then Nick's like, do we have to go to prom? Can we just stay here? And then Charlie is like, we have to go. Everyone's expecting us to be there and to go together. So then again, we have like these expectations that he's trying to live up to. Or they both are, I think. And Charlie has like this kind of get like this fantasy that Charlie's seeing in his head of him and Nick arriving to the prom and everything's perfect and they take a picture together and then they have the dance floor to themselves. And Nick even dips him in the middle of the dance floor and they kiss in front of everyone. And after he has like this playing out in his head, he's like, yeah, I'm sure I want to go.
Yeah.
And then we cut to Tara, who's in her room looking up at her dress. She still hasn't heard back from Darcy. She keeps messaging her. And the last thing that she messages her is, whatever has happened, I'm here for you. So at this point, she hasn't been able to reach her. Darcy hasn't gotten back to her. And all she can think to say at this point, this is the last thing she's sending is, hey, I'm here for you. Whatever it is, I know something's happening. I'm here for you. And we cut to a scene where Darcy is in a playground on a swing set. She's looking over to a mom playing with her little daughter. The mom picks up the daughter and it's like comforting her after a fall or something after she got hurt. And Darcy seems to see this. It makes her super sad before she grabs her bag and starts to walk out of the parks. This triggered her in some way. Seeing a mom comfort her child triggered her to the point where she had to leave this playground. At least we know she's okay now as the viewer. But Tara doesn't know that.
Yeah.
And she's in her room starting to get ready by herself to go to this prom. And it's fucking sad.
The prom begins already as a huge success. And they take photos and dance. They kind of set it up almost like a 1980s like US prom where you've got like this horrible tacky background and everyone's taking pictures in front of it. And like you're taking your little couples picture and it's like very, very cute. Tao and Elle are the dancing king and queen because they don't give a fuck. Elle for being stunning, statuesque, like a gazelle, gorgeous. Tao for not giving a shit what other people think of him. I'm obsessed with both of them. Impeccable energy.
Did you notice how in their dance they do like the little like the fish hook
yes
dance that they did when they went out for ice cream?
Aww.
So that's like their signature. Elle goes to catch Tao and Tao's the catch and then she reels him in. It's very funny. Also, his whole setup is giving like Saturday Night Fever.
Well, remember in the last episode, they all kind of decided that they would be thrifting their outfits, like,
yes,
which I love. So Charlie's suit is like very retro looking. It's got like a little bit of like the ruffle action happening down the front of the button placket. I mean, outside of everything cooking under the surface, the prom genuinely is a huge success. Once they're there, with the exception of Tara and Darcy, everyone seems to be having a great time. This is also where we see Isaac, who has kind of been on the periphery, right? We're focusing on everyone else in the friend group, even though Isaac is probably like the most reliable, right, of the bunch. We see Isaac drift off away from the prom area where everybody has coupled up and he's feeling out of place and frustrated. He goes to his safe space. His safe space is the library. And Paola and I were talking about this. We were talking about this off mic, how Isaac is able to go to his school library where there is a pride display of books about queerness and relating to Pride Month, because you can assume that if it's the end of the school year, it's like June, a display that he helped create. He goes over to that same display and he's able to find resources on asexuality, aromance, things that resonate with him, that give him a framework, not 100% just because he wants to label himself, but ways that he can understand himself better and understand that he's not alone, that other people have felt or not felt the way that he feels or does not feel, and find peace and resolution in that. We were talking about this specifically as it relates to what we mentioned at the top of the episode, the US election, right? November 5th. Something that's been a tragedy, I think, in the last decade of American politics as they have shaped our media consumption and the media consumption of children as the country itself drifts further and further to the right with regard to social issues and like social freedoms and social liberties. What we're seeing is the elimination of a lot of these types of resources, queer, gender non-conforming, openly gay, openly lesbian, even resources about the physical body, like sexuality resources as they relate to your body and how it works. We've seen these eliminated from schools because of insane school boards across the country in different towns ruling that these things are inappropriate, that kids shouldn't be reading them. We have seen people burning books in places like Florida. We've seen widespread bans of different types of books and different authors. A country that loves to pride itself on freedom of speech, where we lose entire social media platforms to people like Elon Musk in favor of freedom of speech, but we're burning books because they talk about kids being queer. So this is especially like poignant to revisit at this time, because now we're entering this era where that type of behavior and that type of censorship, it is censorship, will be sanctioned from the top of our government on a federal level. So this is scary. It's scary not to know that someone like Isaac living in a red state or a red town in the US will not be able to find these resources for themselves. And they won't be able to learn how to categorize, label, learn how to identify themselves, learn that they're
better
not
understand
alone.
themselves.
Just the understanding, building the understanding, having language to place that understanding, knowing that that will be much less attainable for other people in this country. I mean, I don't know if they're gonna fucking ban Netflix, but it makes shows like this one so fucking important. It makes the availability of this type of content in a digestible, wholesome, and unashamed way so much more important, because we are going to be wading through just waist high piles of shit for at least the next 4 years, but likely for a lot longer. And we need to develop better empathy, better strategies for how to talk to kids, because when we kick kids out of libraries, when we kick meaningful information out of libraries, we push kids to other sources for research. The unfettered open internet. Looking for things behind your parents' backs because you don't want to ask them. You don't want to go to like a bookstore. You're finding all this clandestine information. And
you don't want to know what they're going to find on the internet.
You absolutely don't want to know what they find on the internet. And those situations are rife for abuse, rife for misuse. And the fact that we are fucking eliminating libraries and eliminating librarians and these types of resources is fucking appalling. I'm not saying all of that to inspire despair in our hearts. I'm saying that to bring light to this countrywide issue that will only continue to grow and get worse. And if you live in the US, if you live in a red area, whether that be town, county, state, it is so important. Unfortunately, I'm asking you to do stuff and use your energy, and that is fucking annoying, I know. But it is so important to involve yourself either in the local school board, involve yourself with your county and state representatives, or involve yourself with your Congress people and your full-on state to national representation. And you need to tell them there need to be fucking guardrails. Stop banning fucking books. If we're so fucking obsessed with free speech, be obsessed with free speech. All of it, I'm not saying all of it or none of it. It's really just all of it or all of it. Free speech left and right. Free speech does not mean hate speech. It does not mean fucking other disgusting shit that gets conflated with normal everyday stories about like queerness and teenagers and first love and discovering yourself. No, but removing these books and these like fountains of information from a healthy, controlled environment like a library or like a school puts kids in so much more danger than it removes from any situation.
Of course, because they're going to go find other resources in places that are not supervised and are not safe and can expose them to dangerous information.
Places that aren't going to teach them about self-acceptance or friendship or finding your own community. Places that aren't going to teach them about setting boundaries, both physically and emotionally. Places that aren't going to teach them about physical protection if they're beginning to engage in sex, like teenagers fucking do. So do we want them to learn all that information in a factually accurate and emotionally not damaging way? A supportive way? Or do we want them not to have access to any of those resources and then just find themselves in the wild west of the fucking internet?
And something that I've thought about that you can do as just a small regular person. If you're in a state where books like these, resources like these are banned from libraries and from schools, buy one and place it in a little free library.
Buy two. Place it in two
Buy
little
two.
free libraries. You don't have little free libraries near you? Reach out to that organization. Literally, it's called Little Free Library, and establish one in your neighborhood. Put it outside your house. Put it on your block.
And just fill it with cute little books and resources that students can't access in that specific school district.
I have read queer romances because I found them in the little free library in my neighborhood across the street from a high school. I see kids at that little free library like every other day, putting in a book, taking out a book. Teenagers. I live in fucking New York, right? Like, I'm not afraid, at least not right now, that they're going to have these resources like taken from them or limited. But seeing the freedom of access to this information makes me understand how precious it is and how uncommon it can be in other parts of the country.
Yep, absolutely. So
all of that to say that Isaac finds a lot of fucking comfort in seeing a book on asexuality in the Pride display at his fucking school.
Amazing. Love that for him.
And it's a big fucking deal.
There's this part where, you know, and he does this because he's feeling down on himself and he's reaching out for a little comfort. There's a part where Elle and Tao are taking prom pictures. I think Charlie turns to him and is like, aren't you going to take a picture? He's like, what the fuck? I'm going to take a picture of myself? Like, nah, I'm good. I feel weird. Like, he's self-conscious about that. And Charlie's like, come on, and grabs him. And they go and take a picture together. Again, them four, their art room picture of Tao, Elle, Isaac, and Charlie. And Elle is literally pulling the book from his hand. Like, sir, put the book down. We're taking a picture.
My core four.
Very sweet moments and very sweet way of, again, the gang just reaching out in a moment where one of them just needs that extra support.
Absolutely. My core four.
Yep.
That's my president. So
What?
So we see Tara get nervous as Darcy continues to be quote unquote late for prom. Darcy is basically full-blown disappeared at this point. Like, of course Tara's going to be nervous, but she's still not being transparent about that with the rest of the gang. And Nick is like, there's something wrong. Right? Like, we need to talk about what's up because Darcy's still not here and you're clearly like not having a good time about it. She tells Nick that she knows that Darcy's having a problem, but she doesn't know how to help. And Darcy never wants to talk about her home life or her family, or she's never even met her parents. She's never been to her house, not even in the context of them dating, in the context of them being friends.
Yeah.
Nick advises her to keep trying until Darcy lets her in, which is like the most Nick piece of advice that he could ever give about absolutely anything. This person is struggling. Keep trying. Keep trying. I'm Nick, and my campaign slogan is keep trying.
Honestly, that's what we see him do.
That's how he gets through.
He just stick with it. He's like, just stick with it.
Ultimately, Tara decides to go look for Darcy at her home. She leaves prom. In the meantime, Charlie asks Nick to take him home because he's sick of all the attention that he's getting at prom. They're getting asked a lot of questions and looked at a lot, and it's not necessarily negative attention, but I just think that it's a lot. He feels that they focused so much on Nick coming out and on them coming out and dating publicly that they forgot what's actually important is their relationship, that they like each other, that they care about each other.
And then they can be open and in love, and they can do that. They don't owe that to people.
Exactly.
Which is, I think, what it's kind of, you know, even earlier where he's like, no, but we have to go. People are expecting us to be there. Like, now it's almost like this. You don't owe that to anyone. Nick came out for him. Now he's out. Now go be in love outwardly and openly.
Yeah.
Wherever you want. It doesn't have to be at prom.
Nick is like, you know what? Let's go. Like, let's go home. My house is empty tonight, so let's go to my house. Hey, gang, let's fucking go to my house and chill out. Again, in incredibly precious fashion. Going back to some of our favorite tertiary characters, we see that Mr. Farouk shows up at the party. The prom party. Not Nick's party. That'd be weird. And Mr. Ajayi is pleased to see him. And he asks him on a date. That's cute.
Mr. Ajayi starts with, hey, listen, about the other night. And then Farouk cuts in. Like, yeah, it was a dumb mistake. It shouldn't have happened. And he's like, actually, I was going to say, maybe we do dinner first. You know, before fucking. And Mr. Farouk's like, oh, okay.
We see that Tara visits Darcy's home. Again, she's never even been there. She's like not even sure she's at the right place. And meets Darcy's mom, who answers the door, claims that she doesn't know where Darcy is. And she does like kind of the fucking most. Like, she could have just been like, no, sorry, I don't know where she is.
She almost closes the door on Tara's face. Like, we don't take cold calls. Yep. Sees that it's a child, literally sees that it's a teenager in a dress, yep, but closes the door in his face. We don't take cold calls.
What?
And then
and Tara's like, no, I'm Darcy's friend from school. And she's like, not at prom. Like, do you know where she is? And she's like, ugh. Like, her whole attitude, you want to punch this woman in the face. Like, she's like, ugh. She threw a tantrum over this stupid outfit. She wants everyone to think that she's a lesbian, or it's like something fucking stupid.
No, she said, can you believe it? She looked like a lesbian.
Woo! Great. Very good. Cool.
If your mother can't tell you you look bad, who can?
And it's like, girl, that's not the fight we're having. That she called it Darcy having a tantrum, and that she left after having this quote-unquote tantrum. Obviously, Darcy's mom is a big homophobe.
And a bitch.
And a fucking asshole. Not in touch with her daughter at all. Clearly doesn't even care enough to fucking go looking for her, which is wild to me.
Child left your home the night before. You haven't seen her
in
since.
A day.
It's been about 24 hours. And the only thing she says is, I'm sure when she realizes she's wrong, she'll be back home. And Tara is actually the one that's like, well, okay, well, if I hear anything from her, I'll let you know. Like, for the fact that Tara, the other child, is the one that has to say that to you. Here's her friend looking for her. So she's not at home and she's not with her friends. You're not worried yet?
Yep. Tara gets a call from Nick telling her that Darcy showed up to the prom and that they're all currently at his house. So he tells Tara to come over.
Real quick, what's fucked up about this is that there's so many stories like these. There's so many stories like Darcy's. I think the number is something like how queer youths are like 120, 150% more likely to experience homelessness.
Absolutely.
Due to either having to run away from home, being kicked out of their home, manners of abuse, like, and this is a way of the show obviously introducing you to a situation that would lead to a teenager becoming homeless in a circumstance like this, and how fast and quick that can happen.
And they do it, I think, without getting too graphic, right? Because, you know, they could have made Darcy's home situation different in many, like, terrible ways to drive the point home. But instead, it's like, no, here's a pretty,
they drive the
point home, but it's like, here's a pretty ordinary family.
And a child, ordinary
child. But because she's, like, the mom is disagreeing so much with her daughter's, like, presentation, because this has clearly been an issue in the past, considering how they're both reacting to it. Here's how this can escalate into one of them being like, yeah, this isn't tenable for me anymore. I need to go. And the parent not giving enough of a shit to go and stop their kid. Now there's a homelessness situation. Now there's an abandonment situation. Yeah, that's unfortunately incredibly common. Again, the emphasis of a chosen family here is like huge, big, very important. And we learn, unfortunately, that Darcy spent the night at a park. At the same park where we saw her as the viewer, watching a mother and daughter playing on the playground. She felt too ashamed to call Tara and ask for help. So this is not the first time that this has come up, right? Like at that end of term bonfire where Darcy didn't have a ride to come to the party, Tara's like, dude, you could have just asked me for a ride. And Darcy's like, no. And Sahar tells Tara, like, oh, I bet she felt embarrassed. And Tara's like, no way.
She's the most confident person I know.
Yeah, here the fuck it is, coming back. She didn't want to appear weak or vulnerable in front of Tara. However, Tara lets her know that things like that, asking for help, a vulnerability, showing it, isn't going to make her love Darcy less. She's going to love her just as much, that she will be there for her. She's there to support her. That's what being in a relationship is. And they let each other know that they love each other. They feel more settled. Coming out of like the weird situation where Darcy got super duper drunk in Paris, this is like the full resolution of their relationship this season, beginning from the whole like I love you snafu all the way over Paris and now to the end of prom.
Well, and also you understand why it was so hard for Darcy to accept that I love you, because she felt that Tara is saying I love you to a facade of her. She felt like you're in love with the person I portray, and you don't know the person that I am at home.
Right.
The person that my mom hates. The person that can't sleep in their own house because of the environment that she's part of. And so it's kind of having, again, with this theme of perfection that this episode has, trying to portray like this perfect, confident person to be that for Tara, and then not being able to accept that love back because she doesn't know if it's authentic. Because she hasn't been able to open up in that way to Tara. And so breaking down those barriers is so important in this episode, and showing that Tara, I think, even says something like, I don't need you to be perfect.
Yeah.
Now I'm seeing that other side of you, and I still love you.
And the gang gives Tara and Darcy some space to talk before joining them. And now it's a party. Darcy's back. They can party at Nick's until they all have to go home. Charlie hangs back, and Nick tries to get him to open up about the bullying that he faced in that previous academic year after being outed. Charlie finally admits kind of the extent of it, right? Like how bad it got, that people said really hurtful things. He started to believe kind of it similar to his final discussion with Ben, where he was like, you treated me this way and it made me feel like I deserved to be treated that way. Bullying had the same effect on Charlie. He admits through tears, like this is a heavy and really sad conversation. He starts to admit that he was self-harming. I think he starts saying that he was cutting himself. Nick is he's very surprised. This is something that's kind of coming out of left field for him, because even though he knew that Charlie had issues with food, Charlie was traumatized by the bullying, this other part of it, the rest of this iceberg of trauma is catching him very off guard. And Nick he cries. He's so sad for him. Oh my God, watching this scene, I was crying.
This scene, I was tore up. Watching just the despair Charlie's in and communicating that to Nick, the despair that brings to Nick, and now he wants to protect him from that.
And he's in tears, but he's trying his best to comfort Charlie and makes him promise. Charlie has to promise to tell Nick if he ever feels that depressed, if he's ever feeling like he's struggling that much, if he feels like he's going to turn back to that type of self-harm, he needs to know, because he wants to be able to help. He assures Charlie that he will always be there for him. Charlie's not a burden.
Because Charlie's answer to him is, I don't want to burden you.
And Nick's like, no, you're not a burden.
Crying, tears. I'm sobbing.
Yeah, I was crying. Oof. Also, their acting is just really good.
Exceptional.
They're so believable, and also just very empathetic, and they're really, really great to watch. And I remember this one interview, I think for season 3, where Joe Locke plays Charlie and Kit Connor, who plays Nick, are having a silly interview, but the interviewer asks oh yeah, who do you think is your biggest inspiration as an actor? And Kit Connor has been acting since he was a child. He's been acting since he was really young. So he starts naming all these famous people that he's acted with, who he's found to be really helpful to him over his career. Oh, this incredible actor played my grandfather in this movie, so he was awesome. This incredible actor played my parent in another movie. They were great. And then it goes over to Joe Locke, and he's like, well, I probably would say that it's you being Kit Connor.
Aww.
Because he's like, this was my first acting job, and I didn't know what I was doing, and you have so much experience, and you're also such a kind person, and it was such a great environment to learn how to act in because you were there. I feel this is one of the scenes where you're of course.
Yeah. That was awesome.
Yeah, that it's so sweet.
So right towards the end of this scene, Nick starts to tell him I love your hair. I love your face. And then he pauses on the last I love right before he's going to say, I love you. And right there, his mom gets home and announces that she's home.
Yeah.
I don't know if she announced.
You know why she announces that she's home.
She announces that she's home.
She announces that she's home. And what she really means is, get any body parts underneath clothing. Spring away from each other if you must. I don't want to traumatize myself.
I didn't want that interruption, because he was definitely going to say, I love you.
Yeah. Duh.
And then he walks him downstairs, and he's going to go home. And you know what song starts playing?
What song?
You're So Pretty. You're So Pretty plays by the Wajia Project, which is led by William Gao and his sister. So much talent in this fucking cast.
Yeah, I love that. And underneath this song, Nick kisses Charlie goodnight, sees him off at the door. As he shuts the door behind him, he seems worried. Charlie is like floating on the moon. I mean, after this conversation, obviously the conversation's very heavy. They both got emotional. They were crying. But Charlie was there with us hearing Nick start doing the I love, I love, I love. And that gave him a bunch of feelings, made him feel a bunch. Charlie walks a few steps, giddy. He's happy. He's reassured that Nick is, so like steady, so supportive. And he takes out his phone and opens their chat. And he types the words, I love you, but his thumb hesitates over the send button. We don't know if he sends the message. The episode ends.
Oh my God.
And that's the end of season 2.
That's the end of season 2. Almost ended on an I love you. On an almost I love you. No.
Little cliffhanger.
To end season 1 with boyfriend. You're my boyfriend. I'm your boyfriend. We're boyfriends. To then get to season 2 and not end it on an official I love you between the two of them. It's diabolical, honestly. Okay.
Diabolical work. Crazy work.
You're left like, oh my God.
So good.
Also, really, you're going to text I love you for the first time?
I know.
Really? Really, Charlie? And then you got to wait a year to see season 3. But, lucky for us, we were late bloomers on the...
And it was all out there.
Heartstopper journey. And so we didn't have to live with that suffering for
too long.
Much longer. All right, sister. So to wrap this up, tell me, do you have any favorite parts? Any favorite episode of season 2?
Oh, I love the episode in Paris with Tara's birthday party.
That's a good one.
I love that one. I mean, lots of stuff happens, but it's just like finally, like Nick is finally out. Darcy's finally being honest in her feelings with Tara. Tao and Elle are like getting it together. Isaac is obviously, he's not in a great place in that episode, but he's also just learning things about himself. Like something about that episode feels like really hopeful. It feels like that end of high school feeling, like the hope, the aspiration that you have for like the future that's coming.
I don't have a favorite episode. I think my overall favorite arc of this season was Tao and Elle.
Yeah, they're precious.
Watching them finally like come together. One of my favorite songs is in the scene where they walk through the Museum of Montmartre and they have I Want to Be Your Mona Lisa. As he's watching Elle walking around the museum and seeing all this art history, watching them in the Louvre and them having their first kiss, and amazing. Having their first kiss of the butterfly explosion when they kiss and Tao is in his butterfly shirt. Like, yeah, I love their arc. Obviously, Nick and Charlie and seeing their growth, but Nick and Charlie's journey this season, like them, gave us a lot of anxiety. It leaves you thinking what we're going to start seeing in season 3. When you're leaving season 2, you're really worried for them. Not worried for them as a couple. They're great. Together, they're great, but worried for Charlie. Favorite part? Any favorite part?
You know what was really cute? When Charlie and Nick spent the last night in Paris together because they had the room to themselves.
I think that's in the same episode
it is.
That you said was your favorite. Yeah,
it's so
I
good.
did love that.
I really loved that episode, and I loved that they like got that time to like spend together. I just thought it was, I loved it. I thought it was really, really sweet.
I think my favorite Nick and Charlie moment that always makes me chuckle is when Charlie hears Nick speak French for the first time.
God, it's everybody being so surprised. I'm like, okay, bilingual people exist.
Oh my
Bisexual,
God. Love it.
Bilingual. I'm
Let's
so sorry.
Go. So, guys, thank you so much for listening to our season 2 recap. We have reached the end of season 2, which only means one thing. Coming up is going to be
season
finally
3.
Our season 3 recap. Thank you for hanging with us. Thank you for listening to our overanalysis of these wonderful, wholesome teenagers. If you like what you heard and you want to hear more, please leave a review anywhere you get your podcasts. Come and find us on Instagram at Sis Flicks Podcast. Shoot us an email at sisflickspodcast@gmail.com. Find us on Patreon for a bit of extra content and our monthly Sis Flicks hit clips where we get to talk shit about some random things every once in a while. Anyway, let us know what you think. If you have any suggestions or movie requests for us to cover in the future, hit us up. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. That's right.
God, one day you're going to force me to make this a video podcast and everyone's going to see all that dumb stuff I do. Oh, no.
That's why we're here.
There's a lot of dancing around the mic. There's a lot of I'm Natasha
A lot of
Bliss,
hands in the
and
air.
I'll be your freestyle dance teacher. A lot of that.